Good evening. It's Monday, February 10th. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. We start with efforts to contain the Wuhan coronavirus. More on the latest global numbers in a moment. First, an update on the more than 200 evacuees, all U.S. citizens quarantined at MCAS Miramar. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman spoke to one of them about what life is like on base.
It is a hotel, so it's not bad. I mean, food could be a little better.
Frank Wusinski and his daughter Annabelle arrived at MCAS Miramar last week after being evacuated from Wuhan, China, where the coronavirus is widespread. After the pair showed early signs of the virus, they were taken to Rady Children's Hospital, but it was a false alarm. Both tested negative for the coronavirus. Now the father and daughter are back at the base to finish a federal quarantine period.
I've definitely been in worse places.
Wusinski says the base provides them with 3 meals a day. Dinner last night was
pineapple and chicken.
Wusinski and Annabelle are staying in a room with 2 beds, a bathroom, microwave, and coffee maker. There's also a park outside where Annabelle can play.
Do you like the park?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it better than the hospital?
Yes.
Yeah.
There are even groups bringing in toys for the kids.
She doesn't understand what's going, why mom's not here. So she's kind of acting out against her.
Wusinski's wife is still in China. She's not a U.S. citizen and wasn't allowed on the evacuation flight. 3-year-old Annabelle doesn't understand why her mom isn't with them and is getting frustrated.
In her mind, it's mommy not wanting to see her. And so she's been kind of, saying things and like, I don't want to talk to mommy. Just kind of explain as simply as you can as, mommy misses you, mommy loves you.
Wusinski has plenty of free time on base, and he can't help but wonder if leaving his wife was the right thing to do.
On the one hand, I know it was a good thing that we did that. But on the other hand, there's a feeling of guilt that I left my wife in probably the worst time of her life.
To make matters worse, Wusinski's father-in-law passed away over the weekend after contracting the coronavirus. He's now trying to stay strong for Annabelle.
I just don't want to have her see me sad. She's seen us cry.
Wusinski is talking with on-base counselors to help him get through this tough time. He and Annabelle are among 230 people quarantined at Miramar. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
And here are the latest numbers when it comes to the coronavirus. The death toll moments ago topping 1,000 worldwide. All but 2 of those are in China. The World Health Organization says there are now more than 40,000 confirmed cases, including 12 in the U.S. That number jumped 15% from Saturday to Sunday, an indication that more needs to be done to contain the spread. Now to another story we're watching closely tonight, our wet weather. After 2 days of rain in San Diego, we expect a break tomorrow. This is what it looked like along San Diego Bay this afternoon. Earlier, some neighborhoods got more than an inch of rain from this storm. Snow plows were busy clearing the roads this morning at Mount Laguna. That's one of several mountain communities to receive several inches of snow from this storm. A winter weather advisory ended about an hour ago. The storm is moving out, but the wind will stick around. Lauren Rainson has an early look at our forecast.
Good evening. The culprit for all of these troubles we've been experiencing recently being the winds and then the snow levels and the rain. This upper level low right there, it's slowly but surely making a pass to the east. In the meantime, though, these winds are in no hurry to back down as we're going through the rest of tomorrow, the rest of Tuesday. Several locations, winds are going to be blasting greater than 45 miles per hour. The higher up in elevation you go, that's where winds will exceed 60 to 70 miles per hour. That's where we're finding those high wind warnings continuing through the rest of Tuesday for locations well to our north of the San Diego metro. It's still going to be downright breezy closer to home. And take a look at some of those rainfall reports. Point Loma coming in at a little more than 1.3 inches. If you have any of those rainfall reports, go ahead and send them our way. We always love to hear from you. Coming up, I'll let you know when the showers, when the snow, and when the winds will all completely subside.
20,000 pounds worth $338 million. That's quite the haul of cocaine displayed today at Naval Base San Diego. The coke was seized during 8 Coast Guard operations in the Eastern Pacific between November and January. The Coast Guard also acknowledged numerous agencies, including the Navy, for helping in the campaign against drug cartels. High drama on the high seas in the Gulf of California. A boat looking to protect a critically endangered whale was fired on by poachers. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler shows us why.
The boat belonged to the group Sea Shepherd, and their job is to protect the critically endangered vaquita inside of its protected habitat where fishing is banned. But that hasn't stopped poachers putting down gill nets that ensnare and kill the vaquita. The poachers are trying to catch the totuaba fish, whose bladder sells in China for a high price and is considered a treatment for numerous ailments. On Saturday morning, poachers fired on the Sea Shepherd boat, which had been confiscating their nets. 4 panga boats confronted the Sea Shepherd boat. In a video released by Sea Shepherd, the fishermen appear to fire into the water near the conservationists' boat. Afterward, Jacqueline Leduc, the captain of the boat, described the events that led up to the shooting.
They started coming at us, 4 pangas just surrounded us, chased us, and then it stopped again, and then all of a sudden, bam, they all came again, chased us, they stopped, and then we heard gunshots.
J.P. Jeffrey is Sea Shepherd's campaign leader for its mission to protect the vaquita.
These people they attacked the boat this weekend, they're not fishermen. They're more than that. They're criminals. They're carrying guns and they're dealing with this poaching of this totuaba that is also in danger. It's not only the vaquita there.
Experts estimate there are just over a dozen vaquitas left on the planet. All of them live in the protected zone in the Gulf of California. Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
President Trump unveiled his 2021 budget proposal, and it includes cuts to Medicaid and other safety nets. During a meeting with the nation's governors, the president claimed his $4.8 trillion plan will bring the deficit down close to zero. It includes $740 billion in military spending, but makes cuts to Medicaid and other social safety programs. It does leave Medicare and Social Security untouched. Trump also says he has no choice but to increase spending on nuclear programs due to competition from China and from Russia. The budget proposal is not expected to pass in Congress. The president is calling for more money for his border wall. $2 billion is included in his overall budget proposal. Last year, the administration asked for $5 billion, which was denied by Congress. The president has taken other steps to get money for the wall, such as diverting money from military construction. The administration recently touted the building of the first 100 miles of new border fencing. Part of Balboa Park is getting a makeover. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says the city has approved funding for a new gathering place near the Air and Space Museum.
The Palisades parking lot is full of cars, but as you can see, there aren't a lot of people here. The city hopes to change that by transforming this parking lot into a pedestrian plaza.
So we'll have a lot of features here for tables and benches and places for people to sit.
City Councilman Chris Ward says this corner of Balboa Park, sandwiched between the municipal gym and the San Diego Automotive Museum, has unrealized potential. The concept for a plaza here dates back to the early 90s. Soon it could finally become a reality.
Eventually we're going to have a water feature, a rectangular fountain right in the middle of it, and that actually would bring back a historic fountain that used to be here 100 years ago.
The total budget for the project is $1.2 million. While these parking spaces will be lost, the city is adding more parking in other parts of the park. Ward says the net loss of about a dozen spaces is worth it.
What we are getting is a huge new living room opportunity for people to come, enjoy the Palisades on a Sunday afternoon, and actually take advantage of some of the museums that are down here.
Now, Balboa Park has no shortage of infrastructure needs. Included in this year's budget are also some funds to fix some old buildings and repair some old bathrooms. In Balboa Park, Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Uber and Postmates will have to follow California's new gig economy law. A federal judge has turned down their request for a stay. Today's ruling is part of a lawsuit filed last month by the companies and some of its drivers. Uber and Postmates claim being forced to reclassify freelance drivers as employees will damage their business models. AB 5, written by San Diego Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez, requires several industries to make the change, not just app-based platforms. Two education experts are facing off in the March primary to represent one of the lowest income communities in the San Diego Unified School District. KPBS education reporter Joe Hong spoke to the candidates about the challenges and untapped potential of students in Southeast San Diego.
I was not looking for this. I was not waiting for an opportunity to run for office. I had several people in my community who I respect approach me and ask me to run.
As a former student at Lincoln High School, Luana Richmond has firsthand experience with the challenges facing students in her community and the failure of leaders to address them. Subdistrict E spans much of Southeast San Diego and contains Crawford, Lincoln, and Morse High Schools. Schools in the subdistrict of San Diego Unified have the highest number of students receiving free or reduced price lunch. Richmond is challenging incumbent Sharon Whitehurst Payne, who says she's been a strong voice for her subdistrict.
Children come to our schools in District E's community not with the same set of resources that children in, say, District C, the coastal areas, or District A, or some of the other districts. They need to overcome a lot of barriers before you even get started.
But some gaps persist. Subdistrict E's schools also have some of the highest suspension rates in the district, and its high schools have some of the lowest standardized test scores. Some gaps in test scores between schools in District E and others in San Diego Unified have grown in the past several years. Whitehurst Payne says she's brought attention to these gaps during her first term, which resulted in progress especially for special education students.
If you're not case by case sitting down looking at what's happening with the children, we're doing that now. We're going in, we have coaching for individual teachers, for individual students.
Whitehurst Payne added that she's afraid if she's replaced on the board, it would undo all the progress she's made in her first term. Richmond, meanwhile, says she isn't satisfied with what her opponent calls progress.
There is still a very big picture of haves and have-nots. I feel like there are some areas in schools that are doing really well, and there are some schools that are continuing to do poorly. And I can just point to the data.
Richmond says the challenges facing Subdistrict E are just an opportunity to reveal the untapped brilliance of its students. She says she's in it for the long term.
And I also acknowledge, particularly when we talk about education, it's one of those things where you plant seeds and you water them and you don't get instant results. And so part of it too is actually staying the course to figure out what's working. But the other part of that is listening to the people in your community when they tell you something's not working.
But Whitehurst Payne said she's been standing up for her community since her first day on the board.
That's why I was challenging the superintendent and my colleagues about that. Because if you know that there's a gap already, how are you not focusing your attention on trying to address that gap specifically?
Voters in Subdistrict E will choose between the two candidates on March 3rd. Then Whitehurst Payne and Richmond will face off again in an at-large election in November. Joe Hong, KPBS News.
You can learn more about the school board races and everything else on your ballot with the KPBS Voter Guide. Find the link on our homepage, kpbs.org. The KPBS Voter Guide is customizable to your area. You can read up on the issues and candidates and mark your choices to save time while casting your vote. Again, the KPBS Voter Guide is available right now at kpbs.org. Our election coverage recently focused on Measure M, a bond proposal that would fund affordable housing for teachers in Chula Vista. A similar investment is happening to our north. Taylor Bisacki tells us how it's being done in the Bay Area.
Jefferson Union High School District breaking ground in Daly City on Wednesday to build affordable housing for its teachers and staff.
We had 20% turnover with our teachers and staff one year, and that's huge for a district our size. That's a third of our staff. And so we're looking to see what could we do to help retain the teachers that we had, and also how do we attract teachers into our district. And one of the issues, besides, of course, their salary, was the cost of housing and the unavailability of housing.
President of the school district's Board of Education, Kalima Salahuddin, helped spearhead the four-story development in hopes of making life more affordable for employees. Because right now, some teachers commute to Daly City from places as far as Brentwood.
We're building 122 units, 1, 2, and 3 bedroom. We're hoping to keep it 50% below market rate because it doesn't make any sense to build housing that none of our teachers and staff can afford to live in.
Superintendent Dr. Terry Deloria says the school district is paving ways for others across the nation.
We're the first school district in the nation where the community passed a bond to pay for the building. For the staff housing, and I would say to anybody who's interested in doing some kind of a project like this, they should definitely do it. Every district has different resources.
The school district and city worked closely together on the project, hoping it will allow teachers to stay at their schools and serve as a recruitment tool for more staff members.
This is the first step in the continued fight to ensure that, our teachers can make a living wage, that housing isn't part of interfering with that living wage, and the continued fight with education and to increase the funding in education for California so that all teachers don't have to deal with this problem.
And that was Taylor Bisacki reporting. The money for those homes was first passed in 2018. They'll be built and ready for teachers to move in a couple of years.
I'm Amna Navaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, we are in New Hampshire on the eve of the First in the Nation primary. That's coming up at 7 right after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Today happens to be National Umbrella Day, which would have come in handy today in San Diego County. The storm system that brought us rain and mountain snow is moving out. Lauren Rainson has our forecast.
We've seen our fair share of downed trees, power lines, nasty wind gusts, and this is the reason being for all of that, this upper level low, and that's also been producing mountain snow showers and rain in the lower elevations. Yes, we have been talking rain for us in Southern California. Now this is continuing to wrap up as we're heading through the rest of the evening and overnight as that slow-moving system is pulling away to the east. That's allowing us to dry and clear back out again for that Tuesday morning commute. But it will still be downright breezy out there. There are going to be a lot of locations where those wind gusts will exceed 45 to 50 miles per hour. The highest wind gusts will remain well to the north of the metro, but into tonight it will be breezy. Lows in the upper 40s. We're going to keep those clouds around before ultimately clearing out again. Widespread lows in the middle 30s to the lower to the middle 40s. Gusty north to northeasterly flow will dominate that Tuesday forecast. So the further north you head and the higher up in elevation you go, that's where some spots those winds are going to be blasting up to 75 miles per hour. That's where all those high wind warnings are in place in that darkest shade of purple throughout the rest of Tuesday. Besides that, a lot of sunshine to go around, high temperatures in the 60s to the lower 70s, slightly cooler along the coast. A lot of sunshine, but again, that wind is going to be the biggest issue with that Tuesday forecast. Alas, we subside on that middle toward the end of the week with continued sunshine and those temperatures in the middle 60s. We'll take you inland where we're also soaking up that sunshine, definitely on the breezy side, and our high temperatures near 70. Into the mountains, we're also battling those downright nasty wind gusts, 50 and sometimes greater than 70 miles per hour. We'll start to relax on all of that toward the end of the week with those chilly high temperatures in the 40s. And into the desert, the winds are also going to continue to relax middle toward the end of the week. A lot of sunshine and our high temperatures close to 70. Reporting for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Lauren Rainson. Back to you.
More than dust-filled air could be plaguing residents around the quickly evaporating Salton Sea in Imperial Valley. KPBS science and technology reporter Shalina Chatlani says new research shows toxic aerosols could also be filling the air.
The Salton Sea is quickly evaporating, leaving behind a swath of caked and very salty toxic land, filled with pesticides from agricultural runoff. The result is a lot of dangerous dust. It's already prompted local officials to declare a state of emergency over air pollution. But UC Riverside toxicologist Sabir Ahmed says there's another problem. The lands around Salton Sea are rich in the element selenium.
It is used as essential nutrient, but if you have more selenium, it can cause gastrointestinal problem and eventually the garlic breath.
What's happening is that plants in the region are digesting the selenium in the soil and releasing the element into the air. It's already known the soil and aerosols produced from it are toxic for birds and fish, but now the study shows they're also toxic for humans. UC Riverside researchers exposed selenium aerosol to human lung cells in a lab.
So that means it's targeting your DNA. So if they are targeting your DNA, it can cause mutation, and mutation leads to the cancer. And eventually we found type 2 diabetes, eventually the allergic inflammation, this kind of pathways that is directly related to the allergic inflammation like asthma related stuff.
Ahmed says this preliminary study shows there needs to be more research on the soils around the Salton Sea and how it could be affecting the population. Shalina Chatlani, KPBS News.
The numbers keep climbing. We are now hearing more than 100 U.S. service members have been diagnosed with traumatic brain injuries after Iran's missile attack in Iraq. That's up significantly since last week when the Pentagon said 64 had been injured. You may recall when that attack first happened, both the Pentagon and the White House claimed no U.S. casualties. In fact, President Trump even downplayed the severity of the injuries, calling them headaches. That angered many veterans groups. A new study is raising concern over the amount of red meat you may eat. It's an issue that's been debated by researchers for some time. Here's Mandy Gaither with tonight's Health Minute.
Eating just 2 servings of processed meat or unprocessed red meat each week can bring a small but significant increased risk of premature death and heart disease, according to a study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association. Researchers studied long-term data on nearly 30,000 people and determined people who ate 2 servings of meat like bacon, sausage, or a hot dog each week had a 3 to 7% higher risk of premature death and cardiovascular disease. While the percentages may sound small, heart disease is the #1 killer in the United States, and some say even a small reduction in risk can make a big difference. The study's lead author says anyone concerned about heart health or risk for cancer and other diseases should limit their intake of red and processed meats. For today's Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
For the first time, the city of San Diego has an official poet. Ron Salisbury was named today as San Diego's Poet Laureate. He won multiple literary awards and has taught poetry in San Diego and throughout California for decades. Over the next 2 years, Salisbury will serve as ambassador for poetry, spoken word, and literary arts. And summer just got a little sweeter in San Diego with the introduction of a permanent outdoor venue for the San Diego Symphony. The Shell, as it's being called, is the first and only permanent waterfront music venue on the West Coast. Its name is inspired by the dramatic shape of its structure, and it will be a state-of-the-art listening experience with sophisticated acoustics. The Shell will have cinematic views from every seat and can accommodate up to 10,000 guests.
Here on the bay will really be a welcome beacon for our citizens, for our visitors, and it really will be part of the landscape and the skyscape of this city.
Founded in 1910, the San Diego Symphony is the oldest orchestra in California. The first season at the Shell, which kicks off on July 10th with a range of performers from Jennifer Hudson, Bernadette Peters to Smokey Robinson, even the Beach Boys, to name a few. History was made in Hollywood last night. For the first time, a foreign language film took the top prize.
Parasite.
It was a big night for the team behind the dark comic thriller. Parasite took Best Picture, Director, International Film, and Screenplay. And until last night, no film from South Korea had won an Oscar in any category. The Best in Movie Music was also honored. Rick Damigella has more on this year's winners.
Prior to their win at the 2020 Golden Globe Awards, the writing duo of Elton John and Bernie Taupin had never won a major award together. Individually, both songwriters have their share of honors, and they've won numerous Critics Awards this year. But at the 92nd Academy Awards, Elton John and Bernie Taupin picked up their biggest win yet, as Rocketman's I'm Gonna Love Me Again won the Oscar for Best Original Song.
Wow, this doesn't suck. Thank you to Bernie, who's been the constant thing in my life. When I was screwed up, when I was normal, he's always been there for me.
I Icelandic musician Hildur Gudnadottir completed an epic award season with her first Academy Award nomination and win. She previously won an Emmy and Grammy for her score for HBO's Chernobyl, followed by a BAFTA and Golden Globe for her score for Joker. She is just the 5th woman in Academy Awards history to receive a nomination in the original score category. Her Oscar win for Joker marks the first time a woman has won the category since Anne Dudley in 1998 for The Full Monty. She had this advice for aspiring female composers.
To the girls, to the women, to the mothers, to the daughters who hear the music bubbling within, please speak up. We need to hear your voices.
In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
And it's the end of an era for Charger fans. Phillip Rivers will not be part of the team next season. He's been the Chargers quarterback for 16 seasons, most of them in San Diego. But today, he and the team announced he'll enter free agency and leave LA. Rivers said, "I never took for granted the opportunity to lead this team out onto the field for 235 games. We had a lot of great moments beginning in San Diego and then finishing in LA. I wish my teammates and coaches nothing but the best moving forward." It's unknown which team Rivers is likely to join. He and his family recently moved to Florida from their home in North County. And no one has been able to stop the San Diego State Aztecs. The men's basketball team is now 24-0. They passed their latest test over the weekend, beating Air Force on the road. The Aztecs remain ranked number 4 in the nation. Up next, another home game at Viejas Arena against New Mexico. Game time is set for 8 p.m., and that is tomorrow night. And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. Fighting the flu bug. Why not all healthcare providers are getting flu vaccines this year? And on Midday Edition, Dangerously Divided, the new book from UC San Diego professor looking at the ways race and class affect our politics. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us tonight. Have a great evening.